The sun was low over the western plains, pouring a tired amber glow across the dust that clung to the boots of every man and beasts that crossed the small town of Dry Creek. Inside the saloon, laughter rang sharp as a knife, drowning in the smell of whiskey and smoke. Men gathered around a crude iron cage, jeering and tossing coins, while behind the bars knelt a young Apache woman, her wrists bound, her eyes dark as storm clouds. She was proud once. That much was clear from the way she held her chin even in chains. Now her hair hung loose over her shoulders, tangled by travel and tears, and her soft voice whispered words no one cared to hear, except one man. Near the door stood a farmer named Eli Carter, hat crushed between his calloused hands, clothes patched more times than sewn. He hadn't come to gamble nor drink. He'd come to sell a sack of corn he'd raised on borrowed land, hoping to pay off the taxes before winter came. But as his eyes fell on the woman in the cage, something inside him stirred, a kind of ache he couldn't name, the kind that made a man forget hunger and remember he still had a soul. The barkeep, a heavy man with a grin that made folks uneasy, slapped the bars of the cage. "Who'll pay for her?" he bellowed. "Fine hands for work, quiet tongue, and eyes that'll make you forget your troubles. Just 50 coins, and she's yours." Laughter followed, but no one stepped forward. For 50 coins was more than most made in a month. Eli swallowed hard, glancing at the purse in his pocket. Barely 10 coins, his last from the corn sale. He turned to leave, but then the woman looked at him. Just one look, pleading, tired, and yet proud. "Please," she said softly, her voice trembling but clear. "Don't spend your money. Let me be. I'm not worth your hunger." The words stopped him cold. She was speaking to him, not the crowd. Her eyes met his, full of dignity despite the cage. Eli's throat tightened. He wasn't a man used to making speeches, but he knew right then walking away would mean he'd never sleep easy again. He stepped forward. "I'll give you what I have," he said, voice rough. The saloon went quiet for a heartbeat, then laughter burst out again. "You!" someone chuckled. "You ain't got enough to buy a mule's shoe, farmer." Eli took out the small leather pouch and poured the coins into his, and 10 dull pieces that clinked, like the last breath of hope. "It's all I've got," he said, "but it's honest money." The barkeep smirked, pretending to count. "Ain't enough." "You're 10 times short." He tossed the coins back, but one rolled across the floor and stopped near the woman's hand inside the cage. Eli bent, picked it up, and looked at it, his last coin. Something inside him, some quiet voice, said it was still enough. He pressed it through the bars, placing it in her palm. "It may not buy your freedom," he said quietly, "but maybe it'll remind you not everyone's forgotten mercy." Even the barkeep didn't know what to say. The woman clutched the coin as tears streaked her face. "Why?" she whispered. Eli smiled faintly. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. Guess I'm just passing it on." The barkeep scowled, but something about the farmer's voice stopped him from mocking further. He shrugged. "Fine. 10 coins for the story of the year," he muttered, waving his hand. "Take her, fool. She's not worth the trouble anyway." The keys jangled. The cage creaked, and before Eli could breathe, the door swung open. The woman stepped out, legs trembling, unsure if she was dreaming. He held out his hand. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you home." They left the saloon to silence, the setting sun painting their shadows long across the dirt. For the first time in months, Eli didn't feel the weight of his own hunger or debt. Instead, he felt a strange lightness, the kind that comes when a man does something right without thinking twice. The woman walked beside him, holding the coin tight against her chest. "You gave everything," she said softly. "Why would you?" He shrugged. "Maybe because no one else would." They reached his small farm by twilight, a shack by a dying field. He offered her water, bread, and a blanket. "Rest here," he said. "You'll be safe." But she didn't sleep. She watched the stars from the porch, whispering a prayer in her tongue, a prayer for a man who'd spent his last coin to buy back her dignity. The next morning, Eli woke to the smell of firewood and corn mash. The woman was outside, cooking, her hair braided neatly, eyes calm now. She turned to him and smiled, a small, grateful smile that said more than words could. "I can work," she said, "not for debt, but to thank you." And she did, planting, cooking, mending the roof. Weeks passed, and the farm began to change. Rain came after months of drought. The corn grew taller, and the soil softened again. Neighbors started whispering that Eli's luck had turned, that maybe he'd found a kind of grace no money could buy. But Eli knew it wasn't luck. It was her spirit, her strength, her quiet way of bringing life wherever she went. One evening, as the sun sank over the golden fields, she handed him the same coin he'd given her. "Keep this," she said. "You didn't buy me, you freed me, and freedom repays itself." He looked at the coin and then at her. "No," he said softly. "You keep it. It's your story now," she smiled, closing his hand over it instead. "Then it's our story." Years later, folks still told the tale of the poor farmer who gave his last coin to an Apache woman and gained more than gold could ever buy: hope, love, and the kind of peace that only the brave ever find.